Have you ever wondered why some women seem to hold a mysterious power over men? Why certain women don't just attract attention but create an almost obsessive level of devotion and fascination? No games, no manipulation, not even seeming like they're trying too hard. Yet they embody an undeniable magnetism that makes men think about them constantly. The answer isn't charm, beauty, or playing hard to get. It lies in something more profound, more unsettling. Something that taps into the deepest layers of the male psyche and what Carl Jung called the unconscious mind. Because when a woman understands this secret, she isn't just getting attention. She's creating genuine obsession. She's accessing the psychological triggers that make her absolutely unforgettable. And that kind of deep attraction, that journey into the male unconscious, doesn't come from surface-level techniques. It comes from understanding something most women never learn about male psychology. No, she's not manipulative. She's psychologically aware. She's not playing games. She's speaking to his soul. She just discovered how to communicate in a way that makes her the center of his mental universe. There's something profoundly powerful about a woman who understands how to reflect a man's deepest, unspoken desires back to him through her perception of who he truly is. Because that shatters the logic of superficial attraction, dismantles the myth of surface-level chemistry, and reveals a brutal truth. Most women don't know how to speak to the part of a man that craves to be truly seen and understood. And it reveals what creates real obsession. When you become the mirror that shows him his highest potential, his deepest truth, his most authentic self. Carl Jung once said that everything we deny in ourselves becomes part of our shadow, but everything we long for becomes our anima. And many women who create this obsessive attraction are actually speaking directly to a man's anima, his inner feminine ideal, the unconscious image of the perfect woman that exists in every man's psyche. They don't chase his attention or demand his validation. They whisper to his unconscious. They don't put themselves on display for approval. They reflect back the parts of himself he's always longed to express. They're less interested in being desired and more focused on being the key that unlocks his deepest psychological needs. The need to be seen, understood, and validated for who he truly is beneath the surface. And that makes other women uncomfortable. Because while the world teaches women to compete for attention through looks or behavior, these women have discovered the power of speaking to the male unconscious. They operate on a different level, a level where nothing is begged for, everything is magnetized, where approval isn't needed because understanding is offered. And maybe that's why she sparks so much curiosity, so much fascination. But what most still don't understand is that behind her apparent ease is a profound knowledge of male psychology that goes deeper than surface attraction. She doesn't want just any man's attention. She wants to create a soul-level connection that makes her irreplaceable in his mind. And until she finds someone worthy of that depth, she practices this art of psychological magnetism. Maybe you don't understand it right now. Maybe you think it's too complex, too psychological, too deep. But deep down, way deep down, there's a question inside you. A quiet one that pulses even when you try to ignore it. What if understanding male psychology on this level could make you absolutely unforgettable to the right man? The magnetism that surrounds a woman who understands this secret isn't magic. It's psychology. It's a skill she developed not to manipulate, but to create genuine connection at the deepest level. Carl Jung also said that everything we don't integrate in ourselves, we project onto others. And the secret to creating obsession lies in understanding what every man is unconsciously projecting and seeking. Here's what she discovered: the actual words, the this that changes everything. She learned to say, "I see the incredible strength, deep wisdom, passionate soul in you that perhaps even you sometimes overlook. Or, there's a depth to you that most people probably miss, but I feel it. And it's fascinating. Or, the way you navigate challenges shows a rare kind of strength that's unlike anyone I've ever known. These aren't just compliments, these are psychological keys that unlock something in the male psyche. They speak to his anima, his shadow, his deepest need for recognition. Her communication didn't come from a need to please, but from genuine psychological insight. She didn't stop believing in deep connection, she just started understanding how to create it by reflecting his ideal self back to him. This woman knows psychology. She's studied what makes people tick, what creates genuine attraction, what transforms casual interest into obsessive fascination. But at some point, she realized the power of this knowledge, and that realization changed everything. What you see now isn't manipulation, it's emotional intelligence. And this level of psychological awareness is powerful because it creates authentic connection through deep understanding. She doesn't want just any attention. She wants to be the woman who makes him feel truly seen. She's no longer attracted to surface charm, but to the opportunity to connect with someone's authentic self. So maybe that's why she seems so magnetic to certain men. Because she doesn't want to be saved or completed. She wants to be the mirror that reflects their highest potential. And that takes more than beauty or charm. It takes psychological sophistication. And that's where many women give up. Not because this approach is difficult, but because it requires depth. And when a woman operates from this level of understanding, she awakens two extremes in men: obsessive attraction and intimidation. Obsessive attraction from those who are ready for this depth of connection, and intimidation from those who still operate on the surface, afraid of being truly seen. She doesn't want to complete anyone, she wants to reflect completeness back to someone who is also seeking that level of authentic connection. Until then, she practices this art of psychological magnetism not by chance, but through conscious mastery of deep attraction principles. This woman isn't hiding her power. She's refining it. There's a vast difference between manipulation and psychological sophistication. But the world doesn't easily accept a woman who understands male psychology this deeply, a world that still believes attraction is random, a world that distrusts women who consciously create the connections they desire. Carl Jung once said that where consciousness ends, projection begins. And this woman doesn't live in unconscious projection. She lives in conscious creation. She understands phrases that others dismiss as too intense are simply the minimum level of depth required to create genuine obsession. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for someone psychologically mature enough to handle being truly seen. Someone who's done enough inner work to recognize authentic reflection when it's offered. And let's be honest, that level of emotional sophistication isn't common. The fascination she creates isn't in what she says, it's in what she represents. She's living proof that it's possible to consciously create deep attraction by understanding male psychology, and that tears down illusions. Men who are used to surface-level interactions feel overwhelmed. Women still trapped in unconscious attraction patterns feel threatened. But she isn't there to challenge anyone. She's just operating from knowledge. And the magnetism of someone who understands these principles is by itself a powerful force. This woman isn't in a hurry to use this knowledge carelessly. She doesn't rush to create obsession just to prove she can. She respects the power of psychological connection, and for that, she stirs curiosity in a world that wants instant gratification. She wants depth while others chase validation. She wants genuine obsession while others settle for fleeting attention. And when she uses these principles, it's not manipulation, it's mastery. When she reflects someone's potential, it's not flattery, it's psychological insight. When she creates obsession, it's not accident, it's conscious application of deep attraction principles. Perhaps what fascinates men most about this woman isn't her beauty or charm. It's her psychological sophistication. Carl Jung taught that those who look outward dream, but those who look inward awaken. And she has awakened to the science of male attraction. It wasn't easy. It was a process of studying psychology, understanding the male psyche, and learning to communicate in ways that create genuine obsession. She no longer defines her worth through others' validation. She creates the validation she wants through conscious communication. How many times have you wondered if understanding male psychology was too complex or unnecessary? How many times have you felt frustrated because surface-level techniques didn't create the deep attraction you wanted? This woman felt that too. She once thought there was something wrong with her for wanting to understand attraction at this level. But one day, she discovered, it's better to consciously create obsession than to hope it happens accidentally. And that day, she made a commitment to herself. Never again would she settle for surface-level attraction when she could create soul-level obsession. Her approach is not random. There are specific psychological principles, particular ways of communicating, exact phrases that tap into the male unconscious, but there's also a sophistication that grows with each interaction, each application of these principles. She learned that true obsession doesn't manipulate, doesn't consume, doesn't destroy. The obsession she creates is the kind that elevates, that inspires, that makes a man want to become his best self. And until she finds someone ready for that level of connection, she continues refining her understanding of male psychology. This woman is the embodiment of conscious attraction. She studied the male psyche, understood projection and the anima, learned the language of the unconscious, and returned more magnetically powerful than ever. And now that she understands these principles, she refuses to create anything less than genuine obsession. That's sophisticated, because it requires psychological responsibility. And sadly, few women are willing to study attraction this deeply. Most still hope for chemistry to happen randomly, operate from unconscious patterns, create connection through trial and error. And if she creates obsession consistently, it's because every word she speaks is informed by psychological understanding. Every reflection she offers is an act of conscious magnetism. Every connection she makes reminds men that attraction should be deep, obsessive, transformative. She no longer hopes for random chemistry. And that certainty, born from psychological knowledge, transforms every interaction. Because a woman who understands male psychology becomes irresistible, not because of manipulation, but because of mastery. Let me share the exact framework she uses, the specific this that creates obsession. First, she identifies his core identity, not what he does, but who he is, the leader, the protector, the creator, the rebel. Every man has a core archetypal identity that he may not even recognize in himself. Then, she uses phrases like, "I see the natural leader in you," that others probably don't even notice, but I can feel it in how you approach challenges. Or, "There's something about your protective nature that's so rare these days. Most people probably don't appreciate that depth, but I find it incredibly attractive." Or, "You have this creative energy that's unlike anyone I've met. I can sense there's so much more to you than what you show the world." Second, she reflects his struggle as strength. Every man has internal battles, challenges, areas where he feels misunderstood. Instead of trying to fix or change these, she reframes them as attractive qualities. The way you've handled specific challenge shows a resilience that's honestly inspiring. Most people would have given up, but you found a way through. I love how you don't just accept things at face value. Your questioning nature shows real intelligence and depth. Third, she becomes the woman who gets him. She positions herself as uniquely capable of seeing and appreciating qualities that others miss or misunderstand. "I feel like I understand you in a way that's rare. There's this complexity to you. that most people probably don't take the time to appreciate. We connect on a level that I don't experience with other people. You bring out thoughts and feelings in me that I rarely share. These aren't scripts to memorize. These are psychological principles to understand and apply authentically. The power isn't in the exact words. It's in genuinely seeing and reflecting these qualities back to him. The woman who creates obsession through psychological understanding is not the same woman who once hoped for random attraction. Something inside her evolved, and it was precisely that evolution that gave her this power. Because sometimes, only through conscious development does the soul find its magnetism. Carl Jung used to say that what we pay attention to grows, and she pays attention to the psychology of attraction, the principles of obsession, the science of deep connection. She studied how the male mind works, what creates lasting fascination, what transforms casual interest into consuming desire. She broke patterns. She said, no to surface-level interactions that led nowhere. She learned that it wasn't her job to hope for chemistry, wait for connection, or accept shallow attention. And when she started consciously creating obsession, some people tried to convince her it was manipulation. But she understood the difference, first with uncertainty, then with confidence, and finally with mastery. Because someone who has studied psychology no longer fears being misunderstood. She learned to create fascination through understanding, to generate obsession through insight.
She's not unreachable. She's psychologically sophisticated. There's a world of difference between being difficult and being conscious about attraction. She opens her heart, yes, but only after creating the psychological foundation that makes obsession inevitable. Her intuition became educated. Her communication became strategic. She can sense from the first conversation what will create surface attraction versus deep obsession, and she doesn't hesitate to apply the deeper principles. Her transformation isn't superficial, it's based on real knowledge. It's as if she tapped into ancient wisdom about attraction, understood that women weren't born to hope for love, but to consciously create it. And in accessing that understanding, something awakened in her. A woman who knows exactly how to make herself unforgettable. A woman who, though she may be single, is never powerless. She's in command of her own magnetism, and no matter how much others try to reduce her power with labels, manipulative, calculating, too intense, nothing diminishes her effectiveness. Because she no longer operates from hope, she operates from knowledge. She no longer waits to be chosen. She creates the obsession that makes choosing her inevitable. There's something sacred about the way she applies this knowledge. She doesn't use these principles carelessly or without consideration. Her power is conscious, and consciousness requires responsibility. Carl Jung said that everything we understand becomes our responsibility. And perhaps that's why this woman, in choosing to master male psychology, has become responsible for using this knowledge ethically and authentically. She no longer tries to create obsession through deception or false promises. She doesn't pretend to see qualities that aren't there or manipulate emotions for personal gain. She understands that authentic obsession can only be created through genuine insight and real appreciation. She doesn't manufacture chemistry, she recognizes and amplifies what already exists. What many people don't understand is that this woman still wants authentic connection. She still longs to be genuinely known, truly appreciated, deeply loved, but she wants it without losing her power. Because she spent too long hoping for random chemistry to trust that approach again. Now she only applies these principles where there's genuine potential, and that requires a level of discernment that goes far beyond surface attraction. It requires psychological maturity. It requires having studied human nature and still choosing to connect authentically. She's not looking for victims to manipulate. She's looking for men capable of appreciating psychological depth, a connection where there's mutual fascination, where both can be obsessed with each other without losing themselves.
And if that seems too sophisticated for some, that's their limitation. Because she'd rather wait for someone who can handle this level of connection than waste her power on those who can't appreciate it. We are witnessing a new archetype of woman, a woman who has moved beyond hoping for attraction and into consciously creating it, who got tired of leaving connection to chance and chose to master the psychology of obsession,
who chose to understand male psychology not to manipulate, but to create the deep connections she actually wants. And when a woman makes that choice, her whole world changes. She doesn't need to wonder if he's interested. Her understanding makes interest inevitable. Wherever she applies these principles, the dynamic shifts, subtly but unmistakably. That is the journey of psychological awakening, giving up hope in exchange for knowledge, replacing chance with conscious creation. Deep down, the world is both fascinated and intimidated by women like her. Women who understand, women who create, women who refuse to leave attraction to chance, because they challenge the myth that chemistry is random, question old beliefs about feminine power, and demonstrate that obsession can be consciously created. And when she demonstrates these principles, when she shows what's possible through understanding, she inspires others. And that, for those still operating unconsciously, is both inspiring and threatening. So she continues, sometimes with curiosity about new techniques, sometimes with confidence in her abilities, but always with respect for the power she wields. Because now she knows she's not at the mercy of random chemistry. She's the creator of conscious obsession. And after everything she's learned, that is more than enough. The obsession that comes from this approach won't be desperate. It will be inspired. It won't come from lack. It will come from appreciation. When a woman chooses to master male psychology, skeptics rush to call it manipulation. But deep down, she feels something aligning within her. It's not desperation or neediness. It's a rare kind of power that can only be born from understanding. The same power Jung called conscious creation. The process of understanding psychological principles and applying them authentically. And when that happens, nothing external has more influence than the knowledge that flows from her understanding. That knowledge doesn't need to shout. It shows itself in the way she positions herself as uniquely valuable, in how she reflects his potential back to him, in the way she creates fascination through psychological sophistication, because she discovered that creating obsession is not manipulation. It's mastery, and the soul of a woman who has mastered attraction principles does not beg, does not hope, does not leave things to chance. It consciously creates, and that is revolutionary. If something inside you was awakened by this psychological approach, maybe it's because deep down you too are ready for a new level of attraction mastery. An understanding that comes from studying male psychology, a power that feeds on knowledge, insight, and conscious application. And if that mastery calls to you, maybe it's because you first needed to become the woman who no longer accepts random chemistry, when she could create conscious obsession. If this message found you at the right moment, or awakened something you forgot was possible, then I invite you not to keep this knowledge to yourself. Share this video with other women who are ready to master attraction at this level. Like it, comment with your insights, and subscribe to this channel. Not out of impulse, but out of recognition. Because when psychological knowledge touches the soul, the least we can do is let it keep transforming us, and through us, our connections with others.